Okay, welcome everybody. It's Sunday, the 5th of March, and you're very welcome to this free check-in call for March. And we have a lovely, powerful meditation. I think it'll be powerful. Sorted out for a bit later in the teleconference, but the first part I want to just see how everybody's doing. I'm aware, I was just aware earlier on as I was meditating, the impact of the sun's energy, and it's coming in very, very deep. And it's stimulating quite a bit of fear. It's bringing quite a lot of, deeply encoded fear that is encoded into our DNA. It's really sort of pushing it to the surface. So that you might be experiencing sort of nameless fears or fears and patterns that are literally ancestrally encoded, as everything is being flushed clear. And often, the tendency when we're feeling frightened is to close down a bit. The encouragement, and what I'm going to encourage you to do is really open up and welcome in more of the rays of the sun, more of the support from the universe, from your teams to really work through this stuff very, very quickly. So I would just want to go and see, because I think there are some questions that I saw. Joanna and Julie and Kathy. It is lovely. I think almost 300 people have registered for this so far, and I will place this up on YouTube. So so a lot more get the opportunity to look at it if they want. So Belinda is saying, David, do we still get this sun energy when they're spraying chemtrails and the sun can't be seen? Yes, is the short answer, because the sun, being a conscious, intelligent, universal being, is contactable by us whenever. I think exposure to sunlight is a really beautiful thing. And if you can arrange that, or find yourselves in parts of the world where that becomes easier, then spend time doing that. Don't overdo it, of course, but it's a lovely thing to experiment with the sunlight, and just spending 3 or 4 minutes consciously drinking sunlight into your skin, and then consciously taking it deeper and deeper and deeper through layers of the body, into the cells, into the muscles, into the bones, and feeling its impact. And I used to do this. I was instructed to do it years ago when I was in France one time, and I would find that I would be just 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes of that meditation, and I would be roasting on the inside. It was like being microwaved, I guess. I don't think there was any harm to it. I think it felt like a deeply cleansing meditation to do, as I think about it. But it was certainly a lovely thing. So try that, and you'll notice then, regardless of your time of day, and here it's already dark, the sun is very easy to contact. So yes, we don't need to be in the presence of sunlight to receive these energies, but sunlight is always a lovely thing to at a physical level. Our body enjoys sunlight. I only have to see my dog. As soon as he wakes up in the morning, he goes and finds a patch of sunlight to lie in. Our bodies are animals. They love the sunlight, and because it's very, very health giving. Not just vitamin D, which we know about. There are all sorts of other things that get activated by sunlight, all sorts of hormones and stuff. So it's really important for our balance and health. Lacra from Romania says, I love the sun, but I can't feel when there are booms of energy. How can I recognize them? just by paying attention, Akra. Thank you for writing in. And I think that's it. As we pay attention, as you attune to particular frequencies of energy, then you start to notice when there's an expansion in that energy, or when there's a diminishment of that energy. And it helps, one of the best things to work with your energetic sensitivity, I think, is to make friends with trees, some of the local trees in your area, and you really spend time hanging out with the trees and walk, stand quite a way away from a tree and walk towards it very slowly, hands out in front of you, usually down, I find is better. And you're just waiting to sense the energy field of the tree, and you'll start to feel it depending on the size of the tree, quite a way away from the tree. And as you walk towards it, then you're interacting consciously and energetically with that tree. When you get to the trunk, you can lean against the trunk and invite the tree to support you energetically, to send you energy, and you start to feel that. It's a lovely, lovely way to build up sensitivity, is working with a tree. And as you build up that sensitivity, you start to notice all sorts of other sensitivities coming online. So that's, I think nature is one of the greatest teachers we have, and it will really help us to enhance sensitivity. And then before you know it, you'll be sitting and you'll be aware that you're having a conversation with a tree and you hadn't even realized that was happening. So give that a try. Denise, have you felt a change in your sun disk since Egypt, and with all of the extra frequencies coming in from the sun? The honest truth is, Denise, I haven't paid specific attention to the sun disk. What happened for me was that the sun disk, and I can't quite remember this, I think this was before Egypt, the sun disk dropped very quietly, no fanfare. It was up here. And in some incidental little meditation, I realized that it just quietly slipped down here. And what I've noticed since is that there is, as I just got to say this, there's that rush of emotional energy that always signals to me that I'm about to say something that's true, and I hadn't really clocked this. There's very much an increased radiance at this level, and I wonder if we could work with this today. I don't know. There's a lot to get through, but that's my experience, is that the sun disk dropped into the heart, and that that's changed things actually. And I thank you for bringing that up, because I haven't paid attention to that. So thank you, Denise, up in Yorkshire. Linda says, hello, everybody here in Wisconsin. What a time we're in. Lovely and unprecedented, overwhelming at times. So many thank yous. Well, thank you, Linda. Lovely to have you with us. Catherine, amazing recent process. A lot of cleaning since December, decluttering physical and workspaces, things falling away. Some of the process come with a moment or two of fear, and I think that's very, very natural to have this fear coming up. And as I was saying earlier, this deeply penetrating light of the sun is is pushing into fear patterns that are deeply encoded and just flashing them to the surface. So you might find, and there's a lot of fear of death around, and people aren't realizing that it's a fear of death. Actually, fear of death is always the last thing people tend to realize that's active in their system. But I think there's the sunlight is penetrating into these collective fundamental fears at the moment, and so it can feel like you're going crazy, because in a sense the whole world is being moved through layer upon layer of deeply encoded collective patterns at the same time, in a sense. And that's a very general statement, and it isn't quite accurate, but a lot of us are moving through things en masse, and that can feel a bit strange. And so it's really, really important to keep your focus on your truth, your heart, that this is a process you're actively engaged in rather than one you're being dragged through unconsciously. And that automatically makes a huge difference. Then you become a player in the game rather than an unconscious bystander or victim, which is what often can feel the case. Let's have a look. Leslie says she continued to work with a technological clearing with a month-long digital detox. I'm left with a void that our phones distract ourselves from. Try not to fill it, but be with the discomfort of it. Try filling it with sunlight, huh? Try filling it with something wholesome, something life-affirming. Yeah, and see where that takes you. I sometimes think it's best if you're aware of an empty space inside, place yourself in that empty space and ask the empty space if it needs anything other than you, if it wants anything other than you to be present in there. And it could be that you end up picking up a bit of rose quartz, for instance, and streaming that energy into that space, or sunlight, or the energy of a lovely tree in your garden or in your local park, or something like that. Sometimes an empty space doesn't need to be empty, and sometimes you can fill that space with your own awareness. So yeah, well done for that though, Leslie. Thank you. Gail is grateful for the check-in. Mikalia loves singing and dancing and speaking light language with the sun. It is gorgeous. I have found lately, and this started happening before Egypt, that there are dimensions of me that are becoming more active, deeper dimensions. One is the lion-headed being dimension, the part of me that is that in another dimension. And one is an Egyptian priestess energy that sounds funny to say this, but she has a love affair with the sun. And so I can tune into that energy, and she's often in dialogue with the sun, and it's really beautiful. There's this lovely conversation. So yeah, it's interesting. Hi, Annette from San Diego. Louisa says, I have so much internal heat roasting at the moment. Now, this is another thing I meant to mention. These intense flows of energy from the sun can often feel like electrical energy in your system. They can often feel like a real sort of heating energy, an energy that brings in heat. And that effect at one level is burning through any resistance in the body too. So offer anything, and you don't have to know what it is, but if you do, that's fine too. You can just offer anything in your system that is ready to burn up, that is ready to be dissolved by the light of the sun. Then have an internal bonfire, and just offer things to the sun. Go easy with that. It can be a fierce energy to start, and it can end up in feeling like you're running a temperature and have a bit of a flu thing as your system really gets the message and starts to burn up a lot of old energy. So as I say, go easy with that. Agnes is saying, Linda's saying, fear indeed, but with awareness and patterns that retreat into it, allow to transmute, and then receiving it then passes more quickly. So much coming up, mirroring energy, wound healing and clearing. Indeed, that's lovely. Yeah, thank you, Linda. Rachel said she thought it was hot flushes. And it could be that too, who knows? It could be. Agnes says, I'm amazed that even people who have been on a spiritual path for many years are having breakdowns. I am witnessing so many losing it right now. On the edge, angry, reactive, fearful, having a hard time with life situations. Yeah, I mean, these times are intense, and I sometimes I feel like I'm losing it too. So I can't be too amazed, because and we have been made aware and sort of warned of these times for a long time, and most of the world hasn't processed jack shit. They've still got all of their stuff swirling around in their field, and that would be tricky. That would be really challenging now, to have this level of light coming into that level of patterning. But if somebody elects to move through it, the move through will be very, very quick, and that can feel like a breakdown. That can feel quite devastating, to have a lot activated and fall away all at once. So yeah, and it's up to us then how we deal with that in others. Do we step forward to help and hold, or do we step back and leave alone? And you have to take that on an individual basis, because it can be exhausting being there to help and support, and you have to take that on an individual basis, and really listen to your heart on that one, because the intensity is building. It's not gonna drop off anytime soon. Thank you, Mikalia. Gail says, how best to heal from an ankle injury? I was on a vacation in Bahamas last Saturday, witnessed a tragic accident and sprained my ankle. There's so many ways. Crystals can be a really useful thing to move energy through. I think one of the loveliest things for me is always to be very present in a part of my body that is injured, and have a conversation with it, just talk to it, support it from the inside out. And that always seems to work best for me. And that part of your body will let you know then if there's something else it needs, whether it needs, heat or cold, or to be raised or to be lowered, or crystals, or to call a friend to run energy for you, whatever. So it's I would say just commune with that part of your body, be very present with it, and don't require it to heal quicker than it needs. It will need a certain length of time, and go at its pace, which might be faster than yours, and it could be a bit slower if you're wanting things to move quicker. Sometimes it's useful to be laid up for a while, particularly when the energies are this intense, I think. Okay. Louisa says, I have a strong pull to connect with countries' energies in the Holy Land, Egypt, Jordan, Israel. Can you say any more about the ancient civilizations and their role right now in our evolving consciousness? It's interesting. I've just come back from Egypt, and it was an astounding journey. Very, very beautiful, very profound, powerful. And days before I was going to Egypt, I went to the British Museum to be in the Egyptian galleries, and that's a place I have loved for years and have always found very powerful. And this time I didn't find it powerful, and I was wandering around a little bit confused, feeling why am I not really connecting with this? And as I walked out, and it was, I think, a Monday morning, and as I walked out from what felt like a gloomy, shadowy atmosphere in the museum, and it wasn't particularly, it was quite brightly lit, quite nicely lit, but I walked out into bright winter sunshine, and as soon as I walked out, the sun said to me, don't go digging around in your history, for enlightenment. It's here now, present in every strand of every ray of my light. And that was a real sort of a bit of a shock to me, because I was like, well, so why am I going to Egypt? And the answer was, you'll see. And I did have a real sort of resolution of a deeply held question, I guess, about the inner and the outer, and there being no difference at all. But we don't have to go to these places. If you're feeling called, it might be that you've already incarnated in those places, and there is encoded energy in your DNA that is wanting to emerge. And we'll be giving space to this this evening, or on this, excuse me. My cushions have slipped and I'm just making myself comfortable. So yeah, give space to that idea that there already might be encoded wisdom in your DNA that is wanting to emerge. And if you do feel called to go visit a country, then go, because what we experienced in Egypt was utterly beautiful and really lovely. And yeah, sometimes places, landscapes, temples have real keys that help us unlock aspects of our energy, and that's a very beautiful thing. So yeah, hope that helps. Natasha's feeling huge, overwhelming grief. Recent death of a brother, part of this, but grieving preceded his death. And the grief might be personal, it might be collective, it might be deep and ancestral. It could be the grief of the feminine about what has happened to it for thousands and thousands of years. And so just be with the grief. You know, there's nothing more to do than that. And allow yourself to be overwhelmed. And today, you know, as we work with the energy of the sun, bring the sunlight into the grief, not to attempt to push it away or clear it too quickly, but just because sunlight is a fact, it's a thing that brings illumination. And so just offer the sunlight to the grief, or the grief to the sunlight, and ask for help with it. And that's enough sometimes. Yeah, and the state of the world is, you know, grief is a valid response to that, as well as, you know, the death of a sibling. So, but most of us have deep wells of grief that have been unexplored, and I remember with my parents that strange relationships, because they were both addicts, and I didn't know how I felt about them, but I was still grieving, found that the grief was emerging 20 years after their death, you know, so it has its own rhythm. So I hope that helps, Natasha. Anya says, I'm deeply confronted with areas in me that cannot love. I'm wondering about narcissistic tendencies. We all have narcissistic tendencies, to be honest. We all have a touch of that. Some people have a lot of that, but we all have a touch of that. That's how we recognize it in other people. So I don't altogether understand the question. I don't know that there is a question. I'm wondering about narcissistic tendencies, either multidimensional aspects of me that do not emotion, or I am hosting energies that I should not, but that feel like me. I'm very much in the process of carrying that out. Don't quite understand what you're of sorting that out, maybe. Well, hopefully this will help that. But as I say, we all have narcissistic qualities and tendencies, and it's important to acknowledge that and to recognize that within us, particularly if you're confronted with narcissism around you. Look at the parts of you that are narcissistic. It's always a good starting point to take it home and just say, okay, what of me is holding this energy too, you know. Alison says, hello, David and all. From Georgia, USA, and going back and forth with my emotions, but I'm not feeling fear, but depths of sadness, still feeling the beauty around and spending time with my tree friends. Well, yeah, I would just say be with the sadness, because we are in a death process. We really are. I'm very aware of that at the moment, that big chunks of us are dying off and falling away as deeper levels of our being emerge. And that has to be, and grieving is a part of that process. So yeah, acknowledge that and go with it. Rachel, to everybody, could you talk about the difference between moon and sun energy? I've always understood moon energy as more divine feminine and sun as the masculine, but it feels that there's a pull to connect more to the sun the past few years, or maybe that's just me. Certainly it's me, and I don't particularly feel a pull to the moon. I never have. I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I love nighttime here. I live close to the sea, and the path that opens up with a full moon on the water is quite extraordinary. But I'm not a moon, and it particularly I noticed in Egypt, I'm I'm very much a sun worshipper in that sense. And I feel very attuned to the sun, and not so much with the moon. I think the moon is more feminine, will take you into the unconscious more, although I find the sun takes me into the unconscious quite rapidly too. And I'm just asking inside, you know, do I need to pay more attention to the energy of the moon? But it doesn't feel like a yes for me. In those terms, it does feel like I'm simply more attuned to the sun in this cycle. So I can't say too much about the moon because I've never really worked with it. But there is a vast amount of information out there about it, and a vast number of people that do. Claudia's asking, did I feel the energy of Tutankhamun at the pyramids? I didn't, to be honest. I didn't feel for that. I didn't look for that at all. I mean, he wasn't a particularly significant king in those terms. He only ruled for, I think, 9 years and died when he was very young. So not a particularly significant pharaoh in those terms. There were some that reigned for a long time and had big impacts on the country. It's interesting to me that the Egyptian government is, you know, there are a lot of undiscovered tombs in Egypt, and the Egyptian government is really pushing, apparently, for, you know, it's really wanting to find another undisturbed tomb that is sort of as impressive as Tutankhamun's, because it's just over 100 years. It was 100 years last November that that tomb was discovered. And so they're wanting another one like that for the kudos that it brings, I guess, and the interest and the tourist trade and all the rest of it. But so there's a lot of archaeology going on at the moment. They're looking for more, and it's interesting. They just announced an opening of another passage in the Great Pyramid last week, which struck me because we had this trapdoor coming up in an Egyptian transmission, and I'm not in any way claiming that there's a link, because they would have discovered that passageway months ago, you know, before, a long time before it was actually announced. But it was just the timing of it was quite intriguing, because I do think the pyramid holds a consciousness for the whole planet. Certainly, I was aware in the pyramids of the intelligence of this being. It was quite extraordinary, and I've been there before, but I hadn't. I'm in a very different state and space now than I was 18 years ago when I last went, and I think a little bit more sensitive and aware. And I was very struck by the power and the dignity and the presence of this being. It was lovely. The same with the Sphinx, and in some of the temples, not all of the temples, but some of the temples we visited were very much that too. So Claire is saying she's finding this sunshine energy is connecting with other sunshine people, and I'm seeing clearly where there are more shadowy traits and feel more able to call it out. And the sun is very strengthening. It's very emboldening. It gives confidence, I think, and it does show up people's. It literally penetrates the energy field, and so if you're watching it, it illuminates what's going on for people. So. Veronica's commenting on a lovely quote. Most of the world hasn't processed jack shit. Yeah. Any suggestion for dealing with family members that are falling apart? Well, I feel good and grounded. Nature does help. That's from Julie in Ojai in California. I'm always not sure that I pronounced that right. One day I'll go there. One day I'll visit you there, Julie, I hope. It is tricky, isn't it? It really is, because you feel so called to step in and help. I would just drip feed little bits of universal truth, because really what everybody's going through at the moment is really what everybody's meant to be going through. So don't hold back from truth, but you don't want to be rubbing people's faces in it either. And don't lean too far forward to help. Not so far forward that you become unbalanced. It's a really important time to be very conscious of our self-care and taking care of ourselves and giving yourselves the time we need, because these energies are very, very intense. And put yourself first, and then ask inwardly. Or if you see another phone call coming in, it's like, do I really feel moved to take this and spend another 40 minutes on the phone, or am I going to just let that go to answer phone and get back to them later? Don't just spring to help from places of habit. Place yourself first. I hope that helps, Julie. Yes, I've had spiritual friends freaking out, think the energy surges are 5G or illness. Yeah. Kathleen Ford is saying, when I have asked to see my fear in a higher way, I have experienced a subtle change in how I see the situation or person or thought that triggered the fear. For me, that looks beyond the fear to a way that sees the truth little by little, dismantling the separation I feel from everything. And that's lovely. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Is being willing to be present with the uncomfortable emotions. Just checking the time here. And not get too caught up in them. And, that can be tricky. I mean, just earlier today, for half an hour, I was thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, I felt totally overwhelmed by something that was just moving through. And then all of a sudden, it was like a little light bulb goes on, and it's like, okay, I understand what this is now. And it helps me to see through to the other side. And it's like, oh yeah, that's what that is. But sometimes I have to allow, it's like something unpacks itself from deep inside where it's been bundled up to a minuscule, tiny little space inside, and then as energy comes into it and it unfolds and flowers and takes up more and more space, and it opens out and it fills the whole of the energy field, and there's nothing else you can see or think about or feel. And that's been bundled up inside us perhaps for thousands and thousands of years, taking up a tiny little dot of a space somewhere behind the nucleus of a cell. And then it just fills the whole of your awareness, and then it's gone, and it moves through, and something that felt so life altering and huge and so important, as it's moving through, the next day you can't even quite remember what it was, because it's gone. I love this way of the clearing is happening so quickly, and it's quite phenomenal. So don't drag, don't hold on to anything, and maybe don't even spend too much time analyzing stuff at the moment, because it is just moving. Mikalia says she's been shown she carries the DNA of every root race, as it works with the grids worldwide. I wonder whether physically being there was preferable. It often feels unnecessary. I can do so much work etherically. And I often find being in a physical location, I mean, it's one thing, but being, if you're needing to do work somewhere, it's useful to have been to that place. I think that's a truth. And then you can place yourself back in that space anytime. But I often find it's easier for me to do something from a distance than it is to actually be present. That's not always the case. And it's not always possible to visit a place or take time afterwards to take yourself back there energetically. But it's useful also to place yourself in a place, from a distance, because that's opening up another range of our multidimensional abilities, as in by location, and just thinking yourself into a space is a part of that process. It's the first nibbling at the wave of that process. Just a couple more minutes this, and thank you, David. Interesting. Maybe I need to be still during this intense time, as I had a lot of travel plans this year. Is there a way to tune in deeper as to whether to do something or not? I kind of felt off about travel a few days before I left. I thought it was jitters. Was it a premonition to not go? How can we decipher when we are getting a true warning sign? Or is it just travel nerves, or whatever that situation may give us? This is sort of a perennial question. It always gets asked and it's a good question. So it's an important question, but something for me, often I'll literally weigh up a decision. Is it yes or no, buy or not buy, or go or not go? And I'll just literally place the energy of one option in one hand, the energy of the other option in the other, and just weigh them up and see what. And sometimes there'll be a visual that goes with that, like, a flower will appear in a hand and open up, and it's like, that's an obvious yes. And but another thing for me that always works if I can't get clarity, is to meditate and tell my higher self my plans. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not sure on this. I'm not clear on this, but this is my thinking. And I lay it out for my higher self, and I'll hand it over and say, okay, so those are my plans. And in the morning, I'm going to start putting those into practice. Okay, with the full intention that that be the case. And I'll go to bed, sleep on it, and I'll wake up, and either the action will be right there, right in the center of my head, but perhaps with a few modifications or something, but it'll be right there. Or I won't even be thinking about it. It will have gone from my energy field. And I know then that wasn't something, that was just my personality wanting to do something. So yeah, give yourself time around decisions that have a bit of import, and weigh them up, literally weigh them up. I think there's a good common sense in that phrase, weigh things up, because it's a useful way to do it. What has more weight? Yeah, pray and meditate and just listen. Or write. Writing is another great way to get your intuition running highly. Just scribble all the pros, all the cons out, and that can help to unravel the any confusion that's sitting there for you. I hope that helps, Gail. Hi, Helen. How would you deal with allergies? And I never know, because I'm not really an allergic. I don't have allergies. I think often allergies are a deeply rooted fear or resistance to something. And find out what it is you're allergic to could be useful. And it might be something like chemtrails or something along those lines that yeah, and kinesiology is great. If you're not coming up with any answers, go see a good kinesiologist who can muscle test you and work on it from that level. It's always good to have a little black book full of good therapists and practitioners that you can turn to for support. That's really useful. Helen is saying, for months now, I've had what I can only describe as downloads. Get a ringing in my ears and a sense of intuition. It makes me stop what I'm doing until it passes. Great. Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting that big influx of energy. And sometimes, well, energy is always information. Light is always information. So, and I think it's useful if you're becoming aware of that flow of energy coming in. It's always flowing, but sometimes it's particularly strong. Then take time and just be with that and welcome it into your system and just watch as it travels through your system. It's amazing. And watch our being present to it really helps the energy to unlock places within us, to push up blocks that we might have, and you can really participate in that process then and work with the energy to unlock stuff. It's lovely when you can do that. I'm gonna have to start the meditation because we're already, and there are quite a few questions here, but well, not too many actually. Can you speak more on the Sphinx? The Sphinx was utterly amazing. I'll just finish on this. Makes me want to cry just thinking about it. The Sphinx looks tiny compared to the pyramids, and it sort of sits in front of the pyramids. I do think the Sphinx is older than the pyramids, older than it's given credit for. It feels utterly ancient. The pyramids do too, actually, but the Sphinx feels to me on a different level. If the energy of the Great Pyramid was quite masculine, the Sphinx is, for me, decidedly feminine. And there's a forecourt, a temple in the forecourt with blocks of granite standing and then balanced blocks on top. And the energy in that forecourt, I mean, those upright pillars of granite really amplify the energy in that forecourt, and it's just quite mesmerizing in there. And we were really lucky going to the Sphinx. There was nobody there. And it was like our guide was like completely confused because there was just nobody there. And it wasn't, it was sort of mid-morning, by which time normally there are hundreds and hundreds of people there. There was our group and maybe 5 or 10 other people in the whole Sphinx complex. So it was intriguing. And then just sitting, gazing at the Sphinx was, I mean, the energy was just extraordinary. And you could just really feel this beautiful bounty of energy, this extraordinary outpouring of the divine feminine that just felt like, this is my abundance. Please take it, just receive it. That's how it felt to me. I mean, it was utterly beautiful. So I didn't have any deep insights about what the Sphinx may hold, but it was lovely. Okay, we're going to have to stop, or I'm going to have to shut up and get on with meditation, because and we're probably going to go longer, but we will go longer certainly than the usual 7 o'clock or top of the hour cutoff. Will probably be 10 minutes or so longer. So thank you. I hope that's useful. And please feel free, if you have questions, you can always drop me an email. And I'll probably do another one of these next month or something. Okay. I'm going to turn my camera off. And so, excuse me, settle on in for a bit of meditation and energy work. And so, again, thank you so much for being here. Oh, and I also meant to say thank you so much to all of those that have given donations for this. It's really useful, really helpful. It always costs money to run these things. I have contracts with various IT companies and platform hosts and whatever, and your donations make a big difference. So I do deeply, deeply appreciate that. Follow the breath. Allow the breath to draw you inwards. Bring awareness to the breath and allow the breath to open you up from the inside out. Recognizing the breath itself is a multidimensional technology, if you like, that has many phases, many uses, but it can pass through all of the structures of the body when it's directed by our focus. And the breath is energy, prana, by force. So breathe that in to your cells. Breathe that into your lungs and allow the blood to pick up that life force, that prana, and carry it around your system. Again, that's a useful thing to focus on for a few minutes. A scintillating sparkles of light coming into the body on the breath and being carried around on the blood. Allow the breath to get underneath patterns of tension and just lift them out, relaxing muscles. Opening up the body from the inside. Breathe your way into the spine. And just feel its strength and its length dropping right the way through the spine and meeting that central cord, the spinal cord, from which all of the spinal nerves flow out to all parts of the body. Touching this level of the nervous system and giving it permission to relax, to let go, to unwind. And to let go of any decisions to be insensitive. Any decisions to close down sensitivity that you may have made in this or other lifetimes. Very good reasons that we chose to not be sensitive. Sensitivity in a world of brutality is painful. But now it's important that we open our sensitivity up. Once more. Settling in deeply to the body, really landing into the pelvis. Opening out the hip joints with your presence, flowing energy down the legs. Into the feet, the toes. Feel the whole of the body Give it permission to rest and to receive. And bring awareness to your heart, to the heart center. And allow it to unfold, to expand, to radiate out. Expanding its field, unfolding like a beautiful flower, perhaps a rose from deep inside the center of your chest, opening out many, many, many layers of petals, even emitting the most delightful scent that is the essence of your presence. And recognize that this teleconference has maybe 300 people signed up for it. And connect heart to heart, creating a planetary heart field. That is useful to our multidimensional teams and friends. A field of light and love. Take a moment to really connect deep into the core of the earth, taking this field and anchoring it there, offering it to the core of the earth, so that it is grounded deep in the core of the earth's heart. You are always present there. The earth knows you as the one that chose to incarnate, as well as all of the different incarnations you've had. So she knows the eternal you underneath all of the personalities you have worn. Beautiful. And there you can feel all of a sudden that the heart field we co-create here starts to balance and resonate to a different pitch as the earth really activates her presence within that. So welcome her energy into this field, knowing then that this field is completely grounded and works for the planet and with the planet and is supported by the planet too. Invite all dimensions of your higher self, your greater self, your soul to be present with you, so that whatever we work with in this meditation is overseen by your higher self, by your soul. Invite more embodiment of that. And invite the whole team of guides that work with you to be present. And connect with the planetary field of nature spirits, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom. And again, touching the earth, the whole of the crystalline realms and the realms of the metals. I welcome in the lion-headed beings, the lion heads, who are my guides. They are genetic specialists, so they'll work with us and they really help integrate the energy of the sun. So they will be assisting and helping us to unpack genetic information. They are our ancestors. They inform me that they travel the universe, finding planets ready to host life, and then they gather DNA from all over the universe and bring it to that planet to kickstart the experiment. And they did that here, and part of their DNA is in our structure. They are our ancestors. We have many, many strands of cosmic ancestry that are starting to open up, unfold. And so then invite your star families and your cosmic ancestors, as well as your earthly ancestors, bringing them into this field. And lastly, for this point, we'll invite the sun, our local sun, the star around which we and all of the other planets in our solar system revolve, the giver of light and life in this sector of the universe. Know then that the galactic center and the great central sun pour energy through our sun. All of the suns are mapped. All of the stars are mapped together. And act as transmitting points for the energy of the galactic center and universal central sun. So just be aware of that. And let the energy of this field build this co-created field that works for us, but also because we create a planetary field, then it works at a planetary level. And we set that intention into what we do. Inviting the light of the sun to pour into this field and start to illuminate our own individual field, expanding it, opening out spaces, creating much more space between atoms and molecules. Allowing the whole field to expand and take up more space so that whatever is ready to fall away can do so with more ease. And we'll just take an initial few moments in a clearing process to really help then later energies to penetrate much more deeply and much more smoothly. Allow yourself to be infiltrated with the light of the sun, gently penetrating, opening up. Your higher self, all of the loving beings that work with you, helping your whole body and field to expand. And then just give permission for whatever is ready to fall away to do just that. Whatever is ready to release, just letting it go. You don't have to know what that is, but just invite your higher self and the teams of beings working with us just to lift out of your body and your energy field all levels of your field, all dimensions of your being, whatever is ready to shift. And here release any subtle fears about the sun, about the impact of the sun's rays, Just let them go. This is not a suggestion to spend long periods out in bright sunlight at all, but just recognize that we've been encouraged to become frightened of the sun, and that acts as a filter. And here we are simply energetically communing with the sun, receiving from the sun. And we need no filter. Any deep issues in your relationship with the sun that represents in our collective psyche the masculine principle. 73 lifetimes ago, you may have been sacrificed to the sun in some tribal ritual, or a loved one may have been offered in sacrifice. You may have a deep resentment against the sun. Just invite anything like that. Any confusions in your relationship with the sun to be washed through now. And ask that these incoming streams of encoded light start to run through your field, straightening out entanglements and confusions at every level, opening out spaces that have been hidden within you. In the physical body, concentrate those energies in any area of your body, perhaps a sprained ankle or a sore back, a stiff shoulder, a cancerous tumor. Focus them. Activate the aspect of the sun that you want, the warmth, the light, the healing, the intelligence. And wash it through the etheric and emotional body, inviting this radiant light to disentangle any confusions and patterning, to straighten things out. And just receive wholeheartedly the light of the sun into your system, taking it through the mental body, inviting belief systems that are held in the mental field that no longer need to be present, no longer need to be a part of your reality. Invite them to dissolve. Often we've done the work of dismantling any wounding, but we still hold some of the patterning. So here, invite the light of the sun to dissolve the patterning. Drawing it in. Maybe the sun has a specific message for you. It is speaking loud and clear to us on this planet at the moment, but maybe there is something specific for you. Imagine if you were having a conversation with the sun. What would it be saying? What would you be asking? Again, focus in any areas where you know you're holding patterning, any difficulty. There's a lot clearing through our collective throat at the moment. Invite any deeply held curses in your field. Maybe that you offered, curses that you directed at another, or that you received. Invite them to be dissolved, now washed away. No matter how skillful was their positioning, was their firing, washed away. Washed away by the bright incoming light. Any technologies from other dimensions that are active in your system that don't need to be. Anything that is not supporting your ongoing evolution, dissolved and neutralized. It's always useful to do that every couple of months as we go deeper into our system. Then you just ask for implants, devices, technologies that are no longer working for you, just to be washed away, disarmed and dismantled every so often. Really recognize the light of our sun, encoded with intelligence, combined with information from the galactic center and the great central sun, the universal central sun. Receive that for yourself. No intermediary. Nobody stands between you and this receiving, just you and the sun. No priest, no hierarchy, no superiors, no inferiors. Just you and the sun. Something that has come up quite strongly this week is this pattern of genetic enslavement. So invite the light of the sun now to unravel that pattern in your system. It's being activated again all over the planet as more and more new technologies come online that would encourage us to lose ourselves in a technological, artificially intelligent world. And these energies will thread their way into our systems. So here, just inviting the light of the sun to dissolve any genetic enslavement, patterning, and to unravel the genetics of enslavement. Take some time with this because this is always quite a significant piece of work. Lion-headed beings moving in closer to help with that because we weren't designed to be slaves. We weren't created with that in mind, but many myths and legends speak of that part of our history that has influenced us deeply. A lot of energy pouring deeply into the heart field now to open up another dimension of the heart. Just awawaha, awawaha, J. Allowing that to expand. J. Ah. And then invite this bright intelligence of sunlight to help you open up doorways in your DNA. Secret chambers stuffed full of your wisdom, bringing it out into the open. Just as this is happening at a planetary level, invite it at the level of your DNA. Your deeply encoded wisdom to unfold, bringing forth libraries of information for you to integrate. Not necessary to know it consciously, just bringing it out of the depths of your being, where we chose to secrete it, we chose to bury it, knowing that we needed thousands of years of ignorance. We chose to experience density and had to forget. Invite the sun to help you remember. Opening up dimensions of your inner world, dissolving membranes of separation and forgetting. And offering this out to the whole of the planet too, as it encodes into this co-created field we have built collectively here, it automatically ripples out into the wider collective. Come back to yourself as that process deepens through you. Now, there are some energies just being lowered into our field, like literally sheets of golden light. Check, be clear on whether you want to receive this for yourself or not, and it's totally fine if not. You could always receive it later, but ask your higher self to integrate this in the most appropriate way for you. You might take a little piece of this, literally sheets of light, sheets of golden light coming in, bright golden light. And this gets, just intend then, as you receive that for yourself, intend also that it be received for the collective, for the wider human collective, the wider planetary collective. Just because that tends to be what happens on these calls, is that it ends up being a piece of energy work that is bigger than us. Something gets brought in that needs a decent sized planetary field to hold it, and that's what we offer here. So just as you integrate that into your own system, it's offered to the human collective, to the heart of the human collective. There, for some reason, I had to say that phrase, the heart of the human collective, and that changed everything again. So just hold that phrase in mind, that we offer this incoming sheets of golden light that have come through our sun. I have, you may have your impressions and your visions, and I'm just going to speak about what I'm seeing with this, and not in any way to override what you're experiencing, but it's as if I'm literally seeing a sheet of thinly beaten gold that has your writing on it, almost like a new set of instructions, or a set of instructions coming in. So just allow that to penetrate, if that feels appropriate for you. A new set of instructions, a new set of guidelines integrated into our system as the age of darkness comes to an end and we move into what many have termed a new golden age. We can be forerunners of that. Way shows, signposts, guides, whatever you want to call it, and it doesn't have to be anything other than lived and embodied at an energetic level. You might not ever feel called to speak about it or write about it or anything. Just grounding these frequencies, and I think that is done. That frequency has grounded, and I'm seeing it there in the core of the earth. And yes, I think we're done. So come back to your spine. And really center yourself in the spine and the nervous system, and allow those frequencies to penetrate through your nervous system. Gently, though, through every part of your being. Recognize then influxes like this that we have worked with and that have worked with us will bring things to the surface. So be aware of that over the coming week or so. And hydrate well. And really feel into the whole of your body. Feel your feet, your legs, your bones. Really be very present in your bones. Allow these energies to penetrate the cells of your bones. And then bring awareness to the level of your heart and allow your heart field to open a deeper dimension of that unfolding, to hold this newness that has arrived, is always arriving. Perpetually new. Acknowledging the whole of this planetary field we've co-created, excuse me, and the work that has happened tonight. A deep bow of gratitude to all of the beings that have worked with us. All of the ancestors, all of the guides, nature spirits and plant and animal kingdoms, and crystals and metals, and the inner earth And of course, the suns, all of the suns, the heavens. And you, my deep, deep gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to all of you for being present. Yeah, it's a great privilege to do this work and to know you in this way. So thank you very much. Sending you all lots of love. Take care, and feel free to let me know how you get on with this, how it impacts you. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.